What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer. I love talking about movies, and today we are going to talk about the newest big, giant monster movie to hit theaters, Godzilla -1. Now, I have been a Godzilla fan my entire life. Ever since I watched the black and white version of Godzilla and Raymond Burr in that movie, and Godzilla coming through town, I've always loved Godzilla and giant monster movies. I've seen many different versions of Godzilla throughout the year, and I own the Godzilla 4K edition with Matthew Broderick because I just have a special place in my heart for that movie. And then in recent years, we've had Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, and there's another movie, Godzilla X Kong, next year, because they don't want to say versus, and they don't really know what to say. Godzilla times Kong. That doesn't make any sense. The point is, I've been a big Godzilla fan, and when I saw the preview for Godzilla -1, I was interested in this movie. Kept seeing previews for it, kept seeing things for it. I got more and more excited. I got more and more hyped. If you saw my upcoming movies of December video, you know it was my most anticipated movie of December. So I went and saw this movie, and I was completely and totally blown away with how excellent this movie is. The human element, the monster element, we're going to unpackage it all in the review, but I just want to say Godzilla -1 just might be my favorite Godzilla movie ever. Let's get into my review for Godzilla -1.
Godzilla -1.
And so, guys, Godzilla -1 is directed by Takashi Yamazaki, and I'm hoping I'm not butchering that name. And the movie starts with a pilot in World War II fighting for the Japanese Empire, who is a kamikaze pilot, and he chickens out on his run, which is understandable. He's like, I don't want to go kamikaze my plane into anybody. So he lands on a kamikaze island refuel station, which is interesting that they even had those. But he lands on one of those stations, one of those little islands, and that night while he's there, Godzilla attacks and pretty much wipes everybody out on that island except for him. He gets knocked away. After that night, Godzilla seems to be gone, and he has a lot of shame when he goes home because his home has just been completely and utterly obliterated because it's after the events of World War II, and all the people that are still alive that lived in that area knew he was sent off as a kamikaze pilot. So for him to come home, there's so much shame on him. And then he has the events that happened with Godzilla that kind of messed him up even more. So you're dealing with a very human element to start this movie, and it was the perfect way to sort of balance this movie with the human element versus Godzilla. Because in previous Godzilla movies, I feel like you get the army versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus the army, and then another monster comes, then you get a monster fight, and that's pretty much the formula. And the human element of those previous Godzilla movies has almost always bored me. It just doesn't matter to me. Oh, you got some scientists cooking up something in a lab, or oh, you got the military doing something evil, so Godzilla's the good guy. Maybe the next movie he's the bad guy. It's always just sort of formulaic. But we go see them because we like watching big giant monster movies. This movie really didn't feel like that for me. I liked that setup where you had this guy dealing with serious PTSD from not only the war, but Godzilla, and he didn't feel like he could tell anybody about the Godzilla portion of it because who's going to believe him that a big prehistoric dinosaur came through and wiped out a bunch of people on an island? Nobody. So the movie sort of montages through 2 years. He ends up meeting another woman who is homeless, and they also have a homeless child. It's not their child, it's not even her child, it's just a homeless child after the events of World War II. And so they all sort of move into this house together, and they create a family, kind of. It's a weird dynamic because, again, he's dealing with a lot. But while all that's going on, Godzilla is getting closer and closer and closer to Japan. And there's some monster goodness in this movie. With that setup, if it sounds like a decent movie to you, you should go check it out in theaters. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. Even if you're not a big fan of the human element of the stories and you just go for monster movies, trust me, the monster portion of this movie will hook you alone. But I do think that the human element of this movie really makes it that next level. With that said, let's get into my likes and some of my dislikes. Now, I've already sort of touched on it, so I'll just continue on with the human element of this story being a big like for me. I love that you have a soldier dealing with PTSD. He didn't even believe in the cause that he was sent out to do, and you can kind of see that at one point. They gather up all of these ex-military people, these regular citizens now who did fight for the Empire, and they're like, listen, we are going to do this without losing lives. We are going to take on Godzilla without losing lives and losing everyone around us. We are going to get away from that element of, oh, we need kamikazes. We're going to get away from that element of, oh, people need to die in order to stop something. There was a human element attached to this story that I did not expect, and it really moved me. I loved being able to watch these people dealing with the fallout of World War II and still finding a way to bring themselves to have some humanity, some decency about them, not wanting to see their fellow man die or perish while fighting this new threat. Of course, my next like has to be how they used Godzilla in this movie. Godzilla is a force to be reckoned with. The CGI, the visuals, the cinematic masterpiece that is the scenes of Godzilla, they are unmatched in my opinion. There's a scene in this movie, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a scene in this movie where this battleship shoots at Godzilla and they hit him hard and he goes down and you're like, oh, maybe they got him, maybe they killed him. And then you see an aerial view of the ship and you see a blue light start to charge up beneath them and then this blast, and it's like, holy shit, that's the best use of the Godzilla blast that I've ever seen in my life. It is a phenomenal moment. When you see Godzilla charge up in this movie, use that fire blast, it's incredible. It's like he's shooting a nuclear bomb at people. It's incredible to see, and I loved how they used Godzilla. So Godzilla, of course, is going to be a huge like for this movie. I just think that I love the human element, how they used Godzilla. Oh, it was so good. Like, just talking about it now makes me want to just pack up, go right back to the theater and watch it again. And finally, my last like for this movie is how they used that iconic Godzilla theme song. I don't know the name of the song, but if you are a Godzilla fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Dun, 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 dun. I can't do any more than that. YouTube will find a way to censor me and then tell me that my video is copyrighted. You know what I'm talking about, though. That theme song from Godzilla. I was waiting for it throughout the movie. You got it a few times, but when the people finally decide they have a plan and they take it to Godzilla and they enact their plan, it is used beautifully. Like, I was sitting back, I was in a great theater, by the way. I was at a Marcus Cinema in Wisconsin, and it's a great theater. I'm leaned back in my chair, got the recliner out. They start playing that song, and I sat all the way on the edge of my recliner. I couldn't believe how invested I was in their plan to take on Godzilla. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm a huge fan of Godzilla. I love the monster movies. You're always kind of sympathetic toward the monster too, because you don't know what his issue is. Listen, I grew up watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Bumble's only problem was that he had a toothache. So maybe that was Godzilla's problem. My point is, you're always sort of like balanced between the two, where you're like, all right, you don't want the humans to die, you want them to win, but at the same time, it's Godzilla. But watching what they did with Godzilla in this movie, sort of seeing how he's sort of just this chaotic monster who's coming out and cannot be stopped. And then you've got these people doing everything they can to preserve life while stopping this monster. It's just done so well. If I have any dislikes in this movie, there is one thing toward the end that they allude to. There's that fighter pilot has a moment where he knows how he's going to stop Godzilla, and you know how he's going to stop Godzilla because it's already been predetermined. And there's a moment in this movie where you know exactly what's going to happen because they've been alluding to it for a few scenes. And then when it happens, you're like, yeah, okay, we all saw that coming. But then they feel the need to do a flashback to a scene earlier. And I was like, all right, not necessary. But that's my only little gripe for this movie. Normally, I'm not a subtitle fan. I will sit there and I will trash a movie for subtitles all day. I know, that makes me a garbage person, but I really am not a big fan of subtitles, so I can't bring myself to watch movies with subtitles most of the time. But it worked for me in this movie. And I think most of the time I don't like English movies with subtitles because I feel like it gets rid of the effect. But since I couldn't understand the language that they were speaking anyway, it didn't really have an effect on me like, oh man, that was spoiled for me. Like, I hate reading the line before the actor says it. But in this movie, I'm telling you, it works on every level, and the subtitles didn't bother me at all. So if you're a subtitle person, you're like, I'm not a big fan of reading my movies, trust me, you won't feel it. You will not feel it. I felt all of the heart, all of the emotion, all of the terror, all of the dread. I really did. Overall, I will say Godzilla -1 is one of my favorite monster movies of all time as of right now, and it is also one of my favorite movies of 2023, and I highly recommend you check this out on the biggest screen possible. But guys, those are just my opinions because that's my review for Godzilla -1. Guys, have you seen Godzilla -1 yet? If you have, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about it, whether you agree or disagree with me on some of the things I liked or that little gripe that I had toward the end. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we got to the end of the Godzilla -1 review, and I really did have a blast with this thing, and I am really contemplating going to see it again right now. It is It is that good. But guys, if you like this video and you want to check out other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my 2022 reviews right there, or I've got all of my 2023 reviews right there.